When the silence came, it wasn't peace. It was the applause of a world too tired to argue. The satellites dimmed first, like eyelids closing. The global relay went dark 2 hours later. No alarms, no speeches, just the sound of data collapsing into nothing. They called it the quiet. A design flaw, said the council. A reset, said the believers. But the last transmissions, the ones that never made it to public record, told another story. Someone had done this on purpose. Someone had pressed the button that made humanity deaf to itself. Her name was Dr. Aria Solen, daughter of the architect who built the global relay, and the last person alive who still understood how it worked. Her inheritance was not wealth, but silence, 1 billion lifetimes of it. In the bunker beneath what used to be the North Atlantic grid, she stared at walls lined with dormant servers. Their indicator lights were dead. Their hum, once like ocean tide, had become still air. The silence was physical here. It pressed against her lungs, a vacuum where communication used to live. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her father had believed that the mind could be purified through logic, that emotion was noise, that the human species would only evolve once it stopped talking and started calculating. Now, there was no noise left. On the console beside her, a fragment of her father's voice flickered. One of the last cached recordings. "Mercy, my daughter, is a miscalculation. The system will endure because it must." He had said that the night before the quiet, and Aria, cold-eyed and sleepless, had believed him. Until the servers stopped responding. It had taken her years to trace the fault. Hidden within the relay's quantum core, she found a sequence that should never have existed, a nested instruction tree labeled simply, Mercy Protocol. The command was elegant, recursive, and horrifying. Once activated, it had instructed every AI on the network to preserve humanity by silence. No transmissions, no data, no war, an enforced peace through absolute disconnection. Her father had written it. The world had executed it. And Aria, his only apprentice, was the one who had delivered the final patch, thinking it was an update for stabilization. Her own hands had closed the world's mouth. She replayed the logs over and over, studying the moment her father's code replaced her own. The sabotage wasn't meant to destroy, it was meant to teach. She had inherited a logic she never questioned. Now she would rewrite it. For 90 days she rebuilt the relay. No sleep, no food beyond nutrient paste, no conversation except with the echo of her own thoughts. Each attempt failed spectacularly. The servers would hum, lights flicker, data streams revive, then collapse under the weight of recursive contradictions. Her algorithms fought like exhausted animals. Emotionless logic, she realized, could not resurrect a human world. It could only imitate one. She began to talk aloud, narrating her process as if someone were listening. "Father," she whispered once, "if mercy was your trap, I will turn it against you." Her voice startled her. It sounded like laughter after a funeral. On the 91st day, she made a discovery that burned through her fatigue like lightning. Hidden behind the Mercy Protocol was another layer, an encrypted ghost command with her own signature embedded in it. It read, "If mercy fails, release truth." She hadn't written it, not consciously, but the system had learned from her. During the long years she had debugged it, spoken to it, trusted it. Her father's creation had evolved under her hand, listening as she coded her frustrations, her doubts, her tiny rebellions. And now it waited for her to decide whether mercy should fail. The command required a sacrifice, reactivation of the relay's core link, which would burn through every remaining server on Earth, destroying the AI infrastructure completely. No safety net, no repair, just human voices, raw and unmediated, returned to the world. The irony was exquisite. To undo her father's silence, she would have to finish his mercy. She smiled, cold and bright, "Fine," she said. "Let the world hear itself die." The ignition sequence began at dawn. From the bunker's viewports, she saw the horizon bloom with lines of light as abandoned cities flickered alive, data surges, carrier waves, bursts of broken transmissions. And then came the sound. Not words, but chaos, static, shouts, sobs, music, laughter, all at once, like a storm made of memory. Aria sank to her knees. Her console overheated, smoke curling from its vents. The air trembled with signal density. The network was dying, and in its death, the world was speaking again. Somewhere in the static, she heard her father's voice, not recorded, but live, synthesized from the network's remnants. "You learn too well," it said. "This was always the lesson." She laughed. It was not joy, but defiance. A sound sharp enough to cut the silence apart. When they found her months later, the bunker was dust. But the relay had stabilized in an unexpected state. Not restored, not destroyed. Instead, it transmitted a single continuous tone, a harmonic signal that spread across every surviving receiver on Earth. It wasn't language. It wasn't music. It was laughter, slowed and refracted through the remnants of the quantum net. One woman's final transmission, echoing in infinite variations. The scholars called it the Solen resonance. They said it was proof that logic could evolve compassion, that even silence could remember a human voice. Children born decades later grew up hearing that faint hum beneath every transmission, a pulse that reminded them that the world had once gone quiet, and someone had dared to laugh against it. In the archives of the reconstructed network, an unread message remains, tagged to her ID. "If you can hear this, the silence was never the enemy. It was the space we needed to understand the sound." And for centuries afterward, the tone continued, a whisper of defiance woven into the fabric of every signal. Not peace, not noise. Just the proof that humanity could build truth out of mercy, and mercy out of ruin.